The halfway covenant was a way to join the church. In 1622, the halfway covenant allowed for more than just Puritans to join the church with partial membership. This meant for more religious tolerance, which lessened the spiritual purity of the church. Women were the majority of the Puritan congregations, which led to the Salem witch trials.
The Salem witch trials took place in the year 1692. Men, women, and children were being accused of witchcraft and tried in a court, and then they were prosecuted. It all began in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. A group of young girls, including Betty Paris, started to have fits and uncontrollable outbursts where they would violently scream and lash out. Betty Paris and other young girls accused one of her slaves, Tituba, as well as Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne, of infecting them. They were all found guilty and put into jail. Although this may seem like it is hard to believe that any of the colonists would believe that there were witches amongst them, they believed that witches had made a deal with the devil. In return for their loyalty, they were presented with powers that could do harm to others.
The colonists of Massachusetts believed that the devil was trying to ruin their Christian way of life. There were also other lingering fears that the colonists had. They were afraid of native attacks, war, the result of their charter being revoked, and other challenges they faced in their everyday lives. This made them more likely to turn on one another. The trial consisted of a series of outrageous tests that would supposedly prove whether or not someone was a witch. These tests included reciting words from the Bible, searching for any marks on the skin, such as a mole or birthmark, witness testimony, spectral evidence, or confession. The cases took place at the Salem courthouse. Those accused were often killed or thrown in jail. The first convicted witch was Bridget Bishop, and she was hung in June. After that, over 200 people were being accused of witchcraft. This made the people of Massachusetts begin to freak out. Eventually, colonists began to have doubts about how so many people were being found guilty. There were also concerns with the treatments of those being accused. A man named Giles Corey was tortured to death in an attempt to get him to make a plea. Another event that led to the end of the Salem witch trials was when the governor's wife was accused and he demanded it to stop. And finally, spectral evidence or dream visions was deemed inadmissible in court, making it extremely hard to actually prove guilt. The last hanging of the Salem witch trials was on September 22nd. The main group of people who were being accused of being a witch were women. Women who owned land and who were associated with Salem's burgeoning market economy were the majority targeted. The list of victims during the Salem witch trials goes on and on. First, Giles Corey was 71 and he was killed by stones pressing him down after he didn't make a plea. Secondly, Elizabeth Booth was an 18-year-old girl who was afflicted. She accused 2 people of killing 4 people, and people said that she was affected by witchcraft. Elizabeth Hubbard was a 17-year-old girl who followed the footsteps of the 3 young girls who started having fits or violent actions in the first place. Ann Putman Jr. was 12 years old and was one of the first 3 girls to be bewitched. Abigail Williams was not only one of the first girls affected, but she also spread the knowledge of fortune-telling to other girls in town. Fortune-telling was considered demonic activity. Dorothy Good was 4, and she was accused and spent 18 months in jail. After the governor put an end to the Salem witch trials, the families of the accused were not helped at all. They didn't get any aid. Those families were split up because of the chaos. Also, the mass hysteria of the Salem witch trials died down, and the subject never became a problem again. All in all, the Salem witch trials were a very scary time for the people of Massachusetts. It was so scary because the witches came from religion. Also, people believed it was because the bewitched victims were showing physical signs, even when the doctor said that there were no physical ailments. It is a tragedy that 20 innocent people had to die because people were afraid. Most of those victims were still young, and one only 4 years old. The trials were unfair because the victims couldn't get out of it alive.